Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 19th of January, Friday, so I wish you a nice day and wonderful upcoming weekend. Now it's 5 to 10 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Lavrov, and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Second update will be a little bit late in the afternoon on my Patreon page, and in between I will upload on both channels, on Rumble and YouTube, new episode of Headlines, a short program in which I will share headlines of the news that I will discuss in my second update on Patreon. And this evening, about 9 o'clock, I will have a live stream on my Rumble channel, which will feature Telegram Reports program. This program is gaining some attention from members of our community on Rumble, and it does makes me happy. If I may, I will ask you to join this live stream this evening. I will share information about live stream later on our community page on YouTube, and also, of course, I will inform you through my Telegram channel also about timing when live stream begins. And well, this is it for announcements. Now let's talk about news. And first of all, short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. There were some very significant changes on several directions. When it comes to Kherson region, well, we can finally say that this so-called Ukrainian counteroffensive, Kherson counteroffensive or Kherson offensive, is definitely finished, and Russian armed forces conducting clearing operation in central part of the Krinky, and I would not be surprised if today Russian Defense Ministry will share with public information that Krinky is under full Russian control. It was expected, of course. If you remember, I was saying from very beginning of this so-called Ukrainian offensive in Kherson direction that it was a trap, and the Kyiv regime will manage to achieve nothing. They will just sacrifice more troops in this direction, and that's exactly what happened. Even big military channels now are sharing almost the same approach to hold this operation. And according to big channels, by the way, Ukrainian army lost about 2 brigades in this direction. If you combine, in just last 2-3 months, if you combine casualties in manpower and losses in military equipment on part of Ukrainian armed forces, situation is under full Russian control in Kherson. In every other direction, and always was under Russian control and initiative also. When it comes to Zaporozhye sector of the front line, no crucial changes here. Main hotspot is, of course, still Orekhov bridgehead and Rabotina settlement and the fields between Rabotina and Verbovo, when Russian forces are conducting local-scale offensive operations and increasing pressure on Ukrainian units on daily basis. And at this point, I guess it's only a matter of maybe even hours, and battles will begin for Rabotina settlement itself. That's how close Russian forward units are to this village. Only village that Kyiv regime managed to establish control over during that so-called spring-summer offensive or counteroffensive, which was a total disaster for Ukrainian armed forces, as I was predicting also, by the way. If you remember, if you are a veteran of our community, you probably remember that I was saying that this so-called counteroffensive will be total disaster even before counteroffensive began, because it was just clear, it was too clear that Russian defense lines were unpenetratable for Ukrainian armed forces, especially in conditions when air superiority in artillery systems, in a drone warfare was on Russian side. And that's exactly what happened. Of course, situation is under full Russian control and initiative also in Zaporozhye sector, like in South Donetsk sector, where main hotspots are, of course, still Removsky salient, where Russian forces, as I said, constantly increasing pressure on Ukrainian units. And maybe it's only days now when Staromayorskaya and Urozhaine will become under full Russian control. It may happen very, very fast. And of course, also a hotspot in South Donetsk sector, Novomikhailivka, although Russian forces for the last several days shifted a little bit attention towards this area in between Ugledar and Novomikhailivka, and Russian forces are now trying to increase territories under their control in these fields here, and they are basically flanking now not just the Novomikhailivka but also Paraskovievka, Konstantinovka in some sense, and making situation even more difficult for Ukrainian armed forces in Ugledar and surrounding areas. Situation is under full Russian control, of course, and the initiative also. When it comes to Donetsk sector of the front line, we have three main hotspots at this point. First is the western side of from Marinka, Georgievka settlement, where Russian forces are closing in, and according to some reports, Russian armed forces even established partial control over this village, although without photo or video confirmation, hard to understand what's going on really in this area. But Russian forces definitely are conducting offensive operations in this direction. Krasnogorovka, by the way, also commander increased pressure from Russian units. And when it comes to Avdiivka direction, of course, main hotspots inside the city and in surrounding areas is southern part of city itself, southern residential area, where Russian forces conducting operations inside the residential area and improving their positions on daily basis. And when it comes to northern sectors, there were some reports that Russian reckoning force operation units were conducting operations in the direction of northern industrial zone and closing into northern residential area. But of course, main hotspot is still these two settlements here, Stipove and Berdichi. Stipove, we can say it's in a gray zone. Some channels reporting that Stipove are already under full Russian control, and the Russian forces are closing into Berdichi and are on outskirts of this village. Hard to tell. I will say Stipove is in a gray zone, and Berdichi now it's next stage for Russian units for the offensive operations, and also Russian armed forces are conducting offensive operations right next to this railway line in direction of Ocheretino. Of course, Bakhmut and flanks of Bakhmut are also hotspots, and Russian forces also increasing pressure in these directions from Kurdyumovka to Klishchevka and in southern flank of Bakhmut, and from Grigorievka to Bogdanovka, and in direction of Ivanovska in the central and northern flanks of Bakhmut. Anytime, any day, a breakthrough may take place, and Ukrainian, because under this increased pressure, defense lines may crack, Ukrainian defense lines may crack and collapse at any direction. When it comes to northern sectors of the front line, of course, you already are informed, and I did spoke about it yesterday in my programs, that Russian forces established control over the Vysyolaya. This information confirmed by Russian Defense Ministry. And well, next step for Russian armed forces, I guess, is Razdolovka village on the western side of Stipove. Also, by the way, Russian forces increasing pressure in Belogorovka area, and it's quite possible that in upcoming weeks, maybe even days, Russian side will conduct some decisive actions in direction of this village to establish control. Initiative definitely is in Russian hands, and also Russian side is quite active in Serebyansky forestry area. When it comes to Tarskoye salient, here also there are reports that Russian forces increasing pressure and closing into Terny and Yampolovka. Although these villages, by the way, if you take a look at the map, these villages are perfect traps. I mean, Russian side can use these villages as a trap like Krinky, by the way, because for supply and support, Ukrainian units need to cross Zheribets River, and entire this area is under heavy Russian fire control. And well, strategically speaking, if Russian armed forces have no plans for large-scale offensive operations in these directions for next, let's say, month or two, then I don't see a reason why should Russian forces try to establish control over the Terny and Yampolovka right now, when they can use these areas as a trap, and basically neutralize Ukrainian units one by one once these reinforcements will arrive in these areas. And it's gonna be doable. It's doable, especially because as in Krinky, Ukrainian forces here also have to cross this Zheribets River and crossings there under heavy Russian artillery fire. So some channels are reporting that Russian forces will most likely establish control over these settlements, Terny, Yampolovka, in upcoming days or weeks. But well, as I said, if there is no plans in Russian general staff or about large-scale offensive operation that will engulf this area also, then it does not really make any sense to now increase offensive operations. And necessarily, I mean, it's not necessary to establish control over these villages right now. They can be used as a traps, and maybe exactly that will happen in this area. Let's see. I mean, next several days, several weeks will give us a more understanding of the situation. And when it comes to Kupiansk direction, Russian forces increasing pressure in this area also. And in yesterday's defense minister's report about progress of special military operation, there was defense ministry shared with public information that in Kupiansk direction, which is usually as quite calm or quite sector like Zaporozhye sector is for last month or two, yesterday in Kupiansk direction, according to Russian defense ministry, Ukrainian armed forces lost about 150 military personnel, which is significant increase compared to previous day when Ukrainian armed forces lost only few dozen military personnel killed and wounded. Main hotspots are, of course, Sinkovka village, also Petropavlovka direction, and Russian armed forces also are conducting operations in Ivanovka area, in Kislovka area, all these small villages that are around Kupiansk, right on the contact line. So Russian forces increasing pressure, and as in Vyshola, Ukrainian defense lines collapsed in very fast, in rapid pace. I guess there are high chances that in the very same way Ukrainian defense lines will collapse under this increased pressure on any of the directions at any time. And then we may see some breakthroughs. Russian forces may use these openings to conduct some large-scale or medium scale, let's say, operations to further improve their positions in a scale of sectors, at least. And this is it for a short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. The initiative is in Russian hands all along the front line, and well, because this constant increase of the pressure on Ukrainian units, well, we should expect more and more news, surprising news, somewhat surprising, about liberation of more settlements on the line of contact. Even while Russian side still operates on the framework of this mobile defense strategy or active defense strategy, and no large-scale offensive operations are taking place right now. Well, let's continue now with some additional news. And well, we have RIA Novosti's report that in Bryansk region, Ukrainian armed forces targeted the oil depot, and well, according to governor of the region, Alexander Bogomaz, while one of the Ukrainian drones were suppressed, that drone managed to drop a bomb over the fuel depot, and one of the cisterns, one of the reservoirs, caught fire. Situation is under control, and firefighters are working now to extinguish that fire. Well, maybe it was, you know, not some bomb from drone, but maybe drone itself did manage to go through Russian air defense systems and hit that oil depot. Whatever the case, unfortunately, one of the reservoirs caught the fire. Unfortunately, time to time, some Ukrainian drones are managing to deal damage on Russian territory, because after all, no air defense system is perfect, even as capable as Russian air defense systems are, and there will be always slight risk that some Ukrainian drones or missiles may go through air defense systems. It's only Kyiv regime that constantly destroys not just 100, but sometimes even, I don't know, 200, 300% of the aerial targets, those delusional individuals manning Kyiv. But in reality, when best air defense systems are incapable to shut down 100% of aerial targets, not Russian, not even Israeli, world-famous Iron Dome. Although I believe Russian air defense systems are much more capable than Israeli systems. Anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that, well, I did already report about it, that, well, Defense Ministry confirmed that Vysyole is under full Russian control. Also, TASS news agencies report that, according to President of Vengria, Katalin Novak, to achieve any progress in Ukrainian crisis in terms of peace talks and ending of hostilities, it's necessary to speak to Russia and to have a dialogue with Russia. And she said this during the interview with the CNBC in Davos, where this World Economic Forum is taking place. And well, even these very true and very obvious statements from adequate leaders of the EU member states, like leaders of Hungary are, even these very obvious statements are kind of controversial, unfortunately, or becoming controversial in rest of the in vast majority of the, you know, countries in the West. Of course, if you want to achieve any progress when it comes to Ukrainian crisis, if you have to achieve peace, you have to talk with Russia. It's just, I mean, it's so simple that I don't know, man. Why this topic is controversial in the West, I have no idea, but that's the level of politicians, vast majority of politicians in the West, and the media also, by the way, because no journalists in the Western media are asking questions why you are not talking to Moscow, why you are not conducting or trying to negotiate with Moscow to de-escalate. No questions asked, because there is no journalists in the West no more, in the MSM, by the way, in the mainstream media. Best journalists that West can offer, all of them, by the way, all of them, every single one of them are now in a free media, in independent media, on internet. And none of them are in MSM, in mainstream media. At least that's how I see it. Let's continue now, and well, RT reports that Lavrov, head of Russian Foreign Ministry, did made quite interesting statements. Yesterday, Lavrov had a big press conference about Russian diplomatic activity in 2023. Dozens of topics was discussed by Lavrov, during that press conference, and very interesting statements made. And of course, he did spoke about relationships between Russia and West, and he said that Russia cannot trust West. Moscow finally understands that it can never have a real partnership with the US-led bloc, the foreign minister has explained. Let's read several sentences here. The Ukraine conflict has helped Russia overcome the misconceptions that it can trust the West, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said. Speaking at the press conference on Thursday on Moscow's diplomacy in 2023, Lavrov argued that Russia's military operation against Kiev has had positive consequences domestically, including reinvigorating efforts on society, which has helped to bring people together. He added that the conflict, which also assured in unprecedented Western sanctions, allowed the country's economy to make great strides in both civilian and military production. The West's hybrid aggression, which encompassed many areas, played a role in making us understand how to go on living. Lavrov said, if there had been any illusions left over from the 90s that the West would open its arms to embrace us and that the democracy will unite us all, they have been completely dispelled. The West cannot be trusted. Even now, it wants only one thing: to live at the expense of others and to be more clever than others. Lavrov's comments come after Russian President Vladimir Putin admitted that last month that he was naive early on his political career, despite having served in the Soviet KGB. He said he believed that there was a fundamental reason for the West and Moscow to be at odds. There was no fundamental reasons for the West and Moscow to be at odds after the collapse of Soviet Union. And well, quite interesting statement, because well, definitely after 90s, by the way, many people here in post-Soviet area and in Russia had this mindset that Russia is now part of this this big European world or Western world, let's say this way, and West will embrace Russia as an equal partner and will respect Russia, interests of Russia, Russian citizens, and so on. But it was a mistake. It was never the case in reality, and Western ruling class never intended to have any respect for Russia or Russian interests. And military operation in Ukraine, the special military operation, definitely help in this regard to disperse all this fog that some people were still in after 90s, in this illusion that there can be some, that there can be some true partnership with the Western states. They cannot. And Russia definitely cannot trust West. And as I said in many of my programs previously, I'm afraid the Western current ruling class of the West damaged relationships between Moscow and Western capitals so much so that I don't think there is even slight chance to recover from this, at least for a couple of decades, if ever. Which is very unfortunate, by the way, very unfortunate, because at some point, even I was believing that Moscow, Berlin, and Paris may create this geopolitical triangle, and if they will succeed, by the way, and there was a chance to do so, and if they will succeed, then well, Europe and Russia will definitely be a major forever, I will say, major centers, polus in this world, in this multipolar world, but relevant center. But unfortunately, you know, it did not happen. It did not happen. Despite the attempts of Putin, Schroeder, Chirac to bring countries closer, Washington and London intervened. They had and still have a huge influence in the European states, and they did derail quite successfully this process that was taking place between Russia, Germany, and France. And well, we are now where we are. And as I said, I don't think, at least for next several decades, there will be even slight realistic chance that relationships will recover between Russia and West, which is very unfortunate, by the way, very unfortunate. Anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that Foreign Ministry of Russia summoned ambassador of France because due to participation of French citizens in hostilities against Russia, and in this particular case we are talking about recent strikes of Russian armed forces in Kharkov, one point of concentration of foreign mercenaries, when more than 60 mercenaries were neutralized, killed, and more than 20 mercenaries were taken into medical facilities. And according to Russian side, vast majority of those neutralized mercenaries were French citizens. We can call them mercenaries, of course, and they were mercenaries. But because of this large concentration of French citizens in one area, well, I guess it's highly likely, and this is my opinion, by the way, it's highly likely that maybe this was some unit of French special forces that were operating there, and that was sent in Kharkov to conduct some operations. I don't know, maybe train Ukrainian soldiers, maybe to do some operations. I don't know what was their purpose or task in this area, but most likely because of this high concentration of French citizens in one particular area, most likely it was units of regular French army or special forces or something like that. And most likely Russian side share with ambassador of France factual information about this. And that's why ambassador was summoned. And by the way, if you take a look at the Macron's statements for last 2 days, and this strike take place on 16th, if I'm not mistaken, on 16th of January, when mercenaries were targeted. And if you take a look at Macron's reactions, he's always inadequate, but for the last 2 days he was threatening Russia left and right. I mean, almost in every other his statement. And this behavior of Macron definitely can be seen as one more indicator that in reality French militaries were eliminated in Kharkov during that strike. Most likely some special forces units. I don't know if media in France even pay any attention to this topic, but well, let's continue. RTS reports that, by the way, yesterday in my second update in my program of headlines, I did share several of the news that I will report about today also. Although majority of news, of course, stays in second update. So RTS reports that the war economy is an opportunity for French defense minister. So war economy is an opportunity. That was stated by French foreign defense minister. The surge in demand for weapons aimed at the Ukraine conflict is benefiting the French economy. Defense Minister Sébastien Lecomte told Le Parisien on Wednesday. Tens of thousands of new jobs have been created in the defense industry sector since the 2017. He explained the war economy is an opportunity for our industries. They have every interest in these tensions, he means Ukraine, because the ability of quickly deliver equipment will become one of the criteria for export success. Minister said, referring to Ukrainian crisis conflict. Lecom revealed plans to produce 78 Caesar howitzers for Ukraine in 2024, a goal that he said had been made possible via the arms manufacturer Nexter's reorganization of its production process. Basically, French defense minister is all openly saying, without any shame, that this crisis in Ukraine, this military confrontation is a good opportunity for French economy, and they are interested this conflict to be continued. If like decades ago politicians were at least trying to act as if they have any dignity or honor, right now I mean, you can clearly see this individual, what is his name, Sebastien, he's not even trying to pretend that he is a decent human being. No, he is clearly saying that, you know what, this war, this destruction in Ukraine is profitable for defense industry of France, and it's all good. And I don't know if society in Ukraine will have reached to this news, but it would be interesting to see their reaction, when they will realize how they've been seen from the outside of Ukraine by these so-called Western partners. Anyway, let's continue. Of course, war is always, for some, it's tragedy and disaster and horror, but for others, it's a business opportunity. Unfortunately, that's how it is. But as I said, at least like decades ago, politicians were trying to, at least trying to be on a moral side, and openly didn't brag about how good it is for them that war is going on there and there. But now they just don't care, man. They just don't care. Anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting that NATO announces the largest drill since the Cold War. NATO is set to carry out its largest round of war games in decades, with some 90,000 troops from all 31 member states, as well as Sweden planning to participate. The drill will run for several months and see training operations held across Europe. Exercise Steadfast Defense 2024 will be the largest NATO exercise in decades, and it will in these exercises 1100 combat vehicles will participate, also including 133 tanks, 533 infantry fighting vehicles. In addition, 15 naval vessels will participate, around 80 helicopters, drones, and fighter jets. This is basically biggest NATO exercises since the collapse of Soviet Union, since the end of Cold War. And officially, of course, these exercises are conducted to somehow deter Russia, even though Russia never threatened NATO, and will never threat, because why should Russia do that? But in reality, by the way, I believe this quite a big exercise is conducted to prepare NATO forces for occupation of Western Ukraine. That's what is happening, by the way. This is my personal opinion. You may agree with me or disagree, but that's how I see this situation. Next several months, NATO leaders and leadership of EU member states, US, Canada, Western ruling elites basically will try to train their forces as much as possible for a rapid to be able to basically conduct rapid operations when final decisions will be made about disintegration of Ukraine to occupy western parts of this region. And as I said many times before, once this conflict will end, by the way, I believe there is 99% chance that entire Ukraine, with the exception of western regions, will become under full Russian control, and western regions will become under control of NATO member states. And I believe these biggest NATO exercises are meant to prepare NATO forces exactly for that, to occupy western regions of Ukraine. And well, it's not gonna be easy, by the way. It's not gonna be easy because I remind you that ideological stronghold of Ukrainian neo-Nazis are located in the western Ukraine. So once NATO forces will enter these regions, well, I guess they will encounter, it's not going to be easy walk, they will most likely encounter some resistance from Ukrainian neo-Nazis. It is highly likely that that's exactly what will happen. And if and that's why NATO forces have to be trained for such developments. Because right now, I don't think NATO armies, NATO member state armies are really ready to deal with the battle-hardened Ukrainian neo-Nazi formations, by the way. I don't think so. Yeah, you know, it's questionable, even if these large-scale exercises will make NATO units well enough trained to deal with the Ukrainian neo-Nazi formations. But they will try at least, I guess. So that's my reading. That's my reading of what is going on. NATO will train now for several months their forces for rapid occupation of Western Ukraine, when final decisions in the major capitals will be made about disintegration of Ukraine and where and how this disintegration will take place. Which parts will be controlled by Russia, which parts will be controlled by NATO or the West. Anyway, let's continue. And well, this is, by the way, also about statements of Lavrov from yesterday's press conference. Probably you already heard about these statements, because I guess Western media will go nuts on this. Let me read what Lavrov said. He was commenting on situation in the Middle East, and he said, "Holocaust does not give Israel impunity," according to him. So let's read it. By the way, Israel. This is RT's news. Israel should not think that the suffering of the Jews during the World War II gives it a free rein in foreign policy, particularly when it comes to the hostilities in Gaza. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said, speaking at the press conference on the results of Moscow's diplomacy in 2023 on Thursday, Lavrov reiterated his support for the creation of Palestinian state. The decades-long failure to do this is one of the key reasons for the current instability in the Middle East and tensions between Palestinians and Israelis, he added. The foreign minister noted that Russia had immediately condemned the attacks on the Israel by Hamas on October 7. However, after the hostilities began, some Israeli officials went so far as to call the residents of Gaza animals without facing any backlash from the West, he added. Israelis cannot now do anything they want because they suffered during World War II. Yes, there was the Holocaust. It was a terrible crime, but there was also genocide of all peoples in the Soviet Union. Lavrov added that the Soviet people had suffered no less as they were exterminated in the same Nazi concentration camps as the Jews, with both people dying from the starvation side by side in besieged Leningrad. Also, so he also remember Leningrad siege, and yesterday it was important because yesterday was a day when Russian Soviet forces began deblockading Leningrad 81 years ago. And of course, all of you are familiar with the siege of Leningrad, Nazi Germany, with support of some other, with support of military forces from some other countries. Finland was participating in this horror and war crime and crime against humanity. For example, Leningrad was under siege for 3 years, by the way, for 3 years, and a huge number of civilians died in the city. Soviet people, including Jews, by the way, under starvation. Those Nazi criminals were starving civilians to death in Leningrad. And Lavrov remembered this yesterday, highlighted this yesterday, because it was exactly the yesterday, 81 years ago, when Soviet forces began operation to deblocade, successful operation to deblocade Leningrad, and it was deblocated eventually. According to this logic, Lavrov says, we can do whatever we want. That won't work if we want to systematically uphold international law, he added. He meant that this logic that, one side suffered during the Second World War so much so that they can do now anything, this is not a right approach or understanding of the situation, because Soviet people also suffered, Russian people also suffered, and the Soviet Union lost much more people than Jewish community. Soviet people was treated no any better than Jewish people. Everyone knows that, and that's why Lavrov said that. This logic cannot be used, because in that case there will be no international law then, no more. If we can do anything we want because we suffered during the Second World War. And by the way, logic of Lavrov is quite understandable. Logic behind his statements, he is coming from. But I guess he's gonna be called anti-Semite, Holocaust denier, whatever. Just you name it. I guess Western media will go nuts on the statements, and they will call Lavrov everything. But if you take a look on his statements, he's correct. Soviet people did suffer it also, but Soviet Union or Russia are not using this as a justification for anything really. But anyway, let's continue. And sometimes it definitely seems, by the way, like Israeli acting as it wishes, and with impunity, just because Jewish people suffered during the Second World War. So our people also suffered. Soviet people also suffered. And what? We are now, we have a right now to do anything we want? It's not works this way. Anyway, let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that according to British Royal Navy, yet another ship was targeted by Ansar Allah movement. In 85 nautical miles in the southeast of Esh-Shikhr city. And well, this information only confirms that these strikes of US and UK not really are helping to secure the shipping lines in any ways, isn't it? And by the way, Ansar Allah organization did made a statement. This is new statement that they did targeted yet another US ship, commercial ship in the Arabian Sea. 140 kilometers in southeast of Yemeni port city El Mukalla. So yes, by the way, I mean, things only escalating, and I don't think it will become, you know, it will get any better anytime soon, exactly because these actions of US and UK. And of course, actions of Israel itself. If Israel stops its aggression against Palestinian people today, then I guess Houthi rebels will stop immediately conducting these operations. But I don't think Netanyahu's government will stop, by the way. There is no indicators that they care, because they don't. They just don't care. Then they are emboldened with this impunity, you know, probably they are quite sure that they can do anything without consequences. Anyway, let's continue. And TASS news agency is reporting that representatives of Ansar Allah organization, to be more precise, one of the leaders of this organization, Muhammad al-Bahiti, made a statement and reinsured that ships, commercial vessels of Russia and China can pass through Red Sea without any issues. Ansar Allah organization will not target ships of these countries. I guess they will not target ships of any country, really, that are not in support of this ethnic cleansing that Netanyahu's government and IDF are conducting in the Gaza Strip. Any country that calls for immediate stop of hostilities would be seen by Ansar Allah organization as a country on the right side of history, and commercial vessels of those countries most likely would not be targeted. TASS news agency is reporting that US base, another US base was struck in Syria, and according to some reports, this base was used by CIA mainly because US military personnel was evacuated from this area a little bit earlier, about 350 military personnel, and this operation happened in area of Hemo, in the northern eastern part of Syria, and attacks were conducted by Islamic Resistance of Iraq. That's the name of organization that take responsibility for these strikes. Well, I said many times before that because of the actions of Washington, U.S. Military personnel is not under high risk everywhere in this world, and especially in the Middle East. And it's true, by the way, and I guess it's only a matter of time at this point, and eventually US will be forced to withdraw its militaries from the region. RT is reporting that anti-Russian leader is a favorite for the top EU job, according to Politico. Well, Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas, an outspoken critic of Russia, outspoken critic of Russia, it's mildly said. She is a Russophobe, man. She's a sick Russophobe. Even though her family benefited from business with Russia, or in Russia, she still has no, any understanding of Russia or any sympathy to Russia or Russians. She's a pure sick Russophobe. And this individual is considered as a top candidate to replace Borrell as a top EU diplomat. So, well, good luck with that, man. It's even good. I support this, man. I support to, more these crazies will be in leadership of Brussels. More people will wake up in Europe and will begin asking questions who the hell these people are and why they are representing them, these crazies, So yes, let's them put this sick Russophobe in the position of top EU diplomat. That will make citizens of EU member states wake up little faster, I guess. And also, by the way, RT's report that according to, let's read it. Russia poses no imminent military threat to Finland. The Nordic country's foreign minister Elina Valtonen has said. The diplomat, however, insisted that Helsinki's decision to join NATO in 2022 was justified, accusing Moscow of using hybrid warfare tactics to make life more difficult for us. For whom, for God's sake? What Russia did to make life difficult for Finnish citizens? For Finns? What you are talking about? These delusional, crazy idiots, man, really. I mean, what Russia did to make life difficult for Finns? Nothing. It's the Finnish government that makes life difficult for Finnish citizens. That's truth. That's true reality on the ground. But of course we know she cannot say that she is a puppet of Washington and she was put in the place of prime minister and then ordered to do and act in the way that it's beneficial for her Western masters. And that's all, really. And after all, there was not even a referendum. People were not even asked in Finland or in Sweden for that matter. Are they really want to lose neutrality and join NATO and become enemies of Russia? Are they really want it? But it is what it is, man. That's the level of politicians in the West. She is openly saying that Russia is not a threat for Finland, and same time she's managing somehow. How brainwashed is she that she same time is saying that, well, although Russia is not a threat for Finland, but joining NATO is still justifying because Russia was engaged in some hybrid warfare. What warfare? What you are talking about, crazy bitch? Sorry, by the way, but really, man, I mean, too much, man, too much. This, I mean, Wansel and Maber probably are more intellectual than these crazies, man. Unbelievable, man, unbelievable. Such idiots, man, uneducated idiots are put in the decision-making positions in the Western states, man. Unbelievable. I think if you take a random 10 or 11 grade kids in the school, Russia, in any school, in any region in Russia, or random 100 in 10th, 11th graduate, let's say, they are most likely like 10 times more intellectual than vast majority of politicians in the EU. I'm 100% sure about it, by the way. 100%. Anyway, let's continue. And TASS news agency is reporting that North Korea tested its Hail 523 intercontinental ballistic missile system, underwater missile system. I guess testing launch was conducted from nuclear submarine of North Korea, and well, Pyongyang is demonstrating almost on daily basis that you know, they are ready to act if any reasons will be given by South Korea, Japan, or US, or anybody really. And it is somewhat surprising how effective North Korea is in development of missile systems, despite being under sanctions for God knows how many decades. Let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that Russia banned number of officials from Cyprus to enter Russia. Unfortunately, tensions are increasing between Russia and Cyprus. Just yesterday or day before yesterday, I reported that Russian businesses are beginning to flee Cyprus jurisdiction. Now, this information that Russian journalist was detained in Cyprus, journalist of Rossiyskaya Gazeta Alexander Gasyuk, on 5th of October in the Nicosia. And Russia, of course, Russia is not happy. Basically, Russia is not happy with the policies of Cyprus leadership, and well, unfortunately, relationships between Moscow and Nicosia, Moscow and Athens, Greece, are probably on the lowest point for decades. Maybe relationships never were at this low, which is sad, really. Which is sad because Greek people are our brothers, and it's sad to see that relationships between politicians or between the countries are this bad. While, by the way, relationships between the people are great. I mean, I don't give a damn what Greek politicians are doing. There is no way I'm gonna ever change my opinion about our Greek brothers. They are our brothers and will be our brothers forever. That's how it is. But it hurts that relationships between our countries are not as good as they're supposed to be. But it is what it is, man. I mean, what you gonna do? RT is reporting that European country to add nuclear weapons to its defense plans. Well, Belarus, by the way, since Belarus is hosting Russian nuclear weapons since 2003, now Belarus is working on a new military doctrine, which will include these nuclear weapons. And of course, they will be clarified in which circumstances, when and how this procedure will work to use nukes, tactical nukes that been deployed into Belarus by Russian Federation in the last year. Yet again, every time we have news about nukes in the Belarus, this is warning, by the way. This is a clear warning, first of all, for Poland, for Baltic states somewhat, and also for leadership, you know, of the collective West in general. You know, at least time to time, they definitely need some reality check. Those so-called elites of the West. And I don't think many of them will pass this reality check, man. Interfax is reporting that, well, I did mention this in yesterday's headlines, I believe, and also during the live stream, that Azerbaijani parliament did call government of Azerbaijan to impose sanctions on a number of French officials, on French businesses, and not to allow French companies to participate in any activity in Azerbaijan whatsoever. And this is a reaction of Azerbaijani parliament on resolution that was made in French parliament on 17th of January, I believe, condemning Azerbaijani military operation in Nagorno-Karabakh on 19th, 20th of September, I believe, 2023, when Azerbaijani forces, yes, September, when Azerbaijani forces established full control over the Nagorno-Karabakh. And well, France now is trying to position itself as a partner for Armenia. And by the way, there is a huge Armenian diaspora in France, or if not huge, quite influential, I will say. Well, it's understandable that this interference of France in South Caucasus region and local issues are not really welcomed by Azerbaijani side, and they are not happy with these anti-Azerbaijani steps of Paris, and that's their reaction. They want to impose, they recommend government to impose sanctions on French businesses, which is a big deal, especially if you take in account that Azerbaijan is a major regional state with huge reserves of oil and gas. So whenever you hear oil and gas, you already know that it's a big deal. Anyway, let's continue. Although France, by the way, French MPs also call government of France to impose sanctions on Azerbaijan, and if that will happen, of course, it will be also harmful for Azerbaijan, no doubt about that. So both sides can damage each other, but well, maybe governments will take more practical route and will not escalate any further. RT is reporting that dozens of countries want to join BRICS. This was stated by Lavrov also in yesterday's this big press conference. And well, let me give you a number of countries. A range of their other states have expressed the desire to become a BRICS member, including Venezuela, Thailand, Senegal, Cuba, Kazakhstan, Belarus, Bahrain, and Pakistan, all of which have formally submitted applications to join. Other countries such as Syria, Turkey, Nicaragua, Indonesia, and Zimbabwe have also expressed interest to join their group, but have yet to file official accession applications. So yes, this number will only grow, by the way. This number of countries that wants to become part of BRICS will only increase with time, and eventually that's what will happen. Eventually, BRICS will become a kind of foundation for a multipolar world, new emerging multipolar world, which makes Western ruling class go crazy, by the way. They are losing dominance over the world. They know it, and they are getting crazy because they cannot do anything about it. They are trying to destabilize everything everywhere. They are trying hard, but and sometimes they are successful, unfortunately. Like they managed to provoke conflict in Ukraine. They are destabilizing Middle East. They are trying to destabilize a number of countries in Africa, in Latin America, but still, BRICS is rising, multipolar world is rising, and this process is unstoppable. This process is just unstoppable. So, top Putin aide warns about future of the energy industries. The oil and the gas sector is not the most promising part of the Russian economy, as the global demand for crude is expected to fail in the long term. Maxim Oreshkin, the top economic advisor to the Vladimir Putin, stated on Wednesday. Well, he is correct. He is correct. In decades' time, most likely, development of new technologies will give humanity new sources of energy other than oil and gas. But well, I believe some demand will always remain on oil and gas, because after all, almost everything we see on day-to-day life has at least some components of oil products. Dress, computer that I see right now, notebook, it's a plastic comes from oil. Just about everything, but even perfume, for example, has some elements of oil. And chemical industry, by the way, fertilizers and I mean, you name it. That fertilizers are made from gas, for example, and yes, you may not use gas as a source of heat, a source of energy in power plants, but for example, but what you're gonna do about fertilizers? You need gas to produce them, isn't it? And many other chemical, many other products that comes from chemical industry. So yes, Oreshkin is correct that demand on oil and gas eventually, most likely, will fade away, but it will not happen in a year or 2 years or 10 years time. It will take long, and I believe even towards the end of this century, there will be some demand on oil and gas, 100%. Although maybe not as on the same level as it is now. But what is also important, that Moscow is quite clearly sees that some alternative sectors of the economy have to be prioritized and developed, not just energy sector, which is correct, which is absolutely correct. And well, in this regards, I can fully understand Maxim Oreshkin is coming from. And then give it a 10, 15, 20 years time, and I believe, for example, agricultural sector will become even bigger source of income for Russia, for Russian budget, than energy sector is. Also, I believe Russia has a huge potential in IT sphere, because in Russia, we do have one of the best mathematicians in the world, scientists, programmers, and there is no reason why Russia not to be one of the leading countries in IT sphere, in IT technologies. So that's also big area of where Russia can be competitive. Engineering, by the way, machine engineering, since Soviet Union, I mean, there was entire industries built on that. So yes, there is plenty of other sectors that can replace energy sector when it comes to revenues for the budget. But anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting that global economy did better than projected in 2023, according to International Monetary Fund. This was stated by head of this fund, Kristalina Georgieva. And well, let's go through the numbers. The projection follows the IMF's less optimistic October outlook, when it said that global growth will continue to slow to 3% in 2023, from 3.2 to 2.9 in 2024, well below the historical average of 3.8 between 2000 and 2019. Among the factors holding back the recovery, the IMF then named the long-term consequences of the pandemic, the Ukrainian conflict and the increasing geo-economical fragmentation. But IMF chief pointed out that the US was poised for soft landing as interest rates start to decline. The world's second largest economy, China, faces below 4% growth unless it implements structural reforms, Georgieva stated. And this year, by the way, according to her, global economic growth will get a boost from stronger than anticipated in 2023. But why? What is the reason, man? The projection follows the IMF's less optimistic October outlook, when it said that global growth will continue to slow to 3% in 2023 and 2.9% in 2024, well below their historical average of 3.8, aiming the factors holding back the recovery. Well, there is no numbers here, only previous numbers. And now this Kristalina Georgieva saying that, well, even though predictions were a little more on the skeptical side, most likely economy will grow in 2024. Oh shit, man. Sorry. That's what happens when you are, tired and not really concentrated. She is talking about 2023, man. She was expected 2.9, or IMF was expecting 2.9%, and in reality, economy did grow about 3 point. Okay, I get that now. I was looking for numbers for 2024. But the IMF will present its updated World Economic Outlook on January 30. Meanwhile, last week, the World Bank predicted the global GDP growth in 2024 would slow for the third year in a row to 2.4%, which will leave poverty reduction goals at risk. So World Bank predicted that in 2024, global GDP will grow 2.4%. And, well, IMF states that in 2023, global economy performed better than expected. Slightly better, but still at some progress. Sorry, dear friends, I get confused with these numbers. Sometimes these outlets are writing in a very strange manner, man. So you have a headline, global economy did better than projected in 2023. So give me straight away numbers, straight away in the first sentence, and then talk about some other crap, man. Just give me straight away numbers. That's what I want. Anyway, man, Russia's economy can overtake Japan's. That's the last news for today's first update. Once again, sorry that I get confused with this IMF and their statements. So Russia may overtake Japan as the world's fourth largest economy in the coming years, Economy Minister Maxim Reshetnikov stated on Wednesday. Russia has already moved past Germany, the EU's economic heavyweight in purchasing power parity, PPP terms, and now has the fifth largest economy globally, according to the same metric. The minister noted PPP, or purchasing power parity, is a metric index popular with the many economists that compares economic productivity and the standards of the living between countries by adjusting for differences in the cost of the goods and the services. So according to this metric, Russia already surpassed Germany and is already number 5 economy in the world, and are closing into Japan. And by the way, of course, usually GDP, traditional GDP metric system is used, although this PPP is gaining attraction more and more because it's more accurate in my understanding, because as it says here, PPP is a metric popular with many economists that compares economic, not just economic productivity, but also standards of living between the countries by adjusting for the differences in the cost of goods and the services. And this is very important because, as I said yesterday during the live stream on Rumble, for $100, for example, you can buy some goods here in Russia, and you may have some services for $100. And very same goods and very same services in Japan may cost $200. In US may cost $300. In some other country may cost less than in Russia. So, and this is important, isn't it? This is important indicator. And therefore, PPP, purchasing power parity, I believe is quite an adequate metric system to have some understandings, to have some better understanding about economical potential of this or that country. And well, in this regard, Russia is closing in on Japan, and this is quite surprising because I was thinking the Japanese economy is some kind of monster, and Russia will never catch up. But well, in this PPP metric system, Russia is closing in, and in 3-4 years' time may surpass Japan, because right now Russian economy is developing twice faster than Russian GDP is growing twice faster than Japanese. So it's possible, and well, I will end this update on this optimistical note. And well, quite long update, by the way, but packed with the news. Sorry that when I was talking about this IMF news, I get confused a little bit. It happens time to time. After all, my English is not as good as I would like it to be, and I may confuse while I'm reading something, and well, sometimes news itself are written in the way that, I mean, you may read it 10 times and you will find it difficult to understand what the hell they are talking about there. But anyway, hopefully you will find this update interesting. And if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and share video with your friends. It will definitely help to reach wider audience. And if you think this project with several channels, with several programs on different platforms is useful, interesting, informative, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You can see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.